Very excited. We're a big game coming up on Saturday, and Bubba, we had this gentleman on the summer of 2018, I believe, last time he was on our show, and glad to have a great Pirate back with, I think he's wearing different colors now though, Bubba.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I know it'll be strange for him on Saturday evening, but I'm very excited. Welcome back into the show. A Greenville native, East Carolina alum, and Charleston Southern Director of Athletics, Jeff Barber. Jeff, how are you?
Bubba, I'm doing great. Hope you guys are, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to chat for a bit today.
I was talking to you pre-show. I was thinking about all day long, knowing you were coming on, that I was just thinking about Greenville, and you know how game days are, and that there's probably not a hotel room in probably anywhere near Pitt County. But I was saying Jeff Barber will definitely have a place to lay his head on Friday and Saturday night. And you told me pre-show you're going to be staying with your brother, right?
Yeah, he lives out near Brook Valley, and they've got a house out there, so it'll be a chance to stay with some family and have some family time. But you're right. Even our team, about, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks ago, they said, hey, we're not going to be able to get close. And we got some staff and donors that are going up, and they're like, I think Wilson's the closest I've heard. So, hey, it's a good problem to have. And that's the way, for a college town, that's what you want to have happen. So that's an awesome thing for Greenville.
How crazy is it, Jeff? You obviously are not only an alum of East Carolina, but a Greenville native going all the way back, I know you said, to 1961. How crazy is it how Rowdy Dowdy can be, Dowdy Ficklin? How crazy is it you're coming back as a director of athletics for a different school?
It's pretty crazy, David. I think I've thought about it quite a bit. I think we've had the contract for a couple of years now, and I've thought a lot about it. The weird thing is, I've done this long enough. I've been at 5 different schools now, including East Carolina, that I know when I walk through the tailgate lots or whatever, I'm going to get the whatevers, and because be wearing a blue Buccaneer shirt or something. And they got no idea that the guy that they're talking to or speaking to, or whatever you want to call it, that he's an East Carolina graduate, and kind of, I was back there with Dave Hart and all that kind of thing. So it's fine. It is what it is. You do this business long enough, and you learn to not take things personal that people don't realize. But it's going to be a lot of fun. But it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, talk about how this matchup came to be. You said, I know it's a contract that had been in place for a couple of years at least now. But John Gilbert, he made it clear that East Carolina was looking for early season FCS opponents, probably one a year. And then, obviously Charleston Southern likes to play an FBS opponent on occasion. So how did this game come about?
Bubba, to be honest, I think it was pre-John. I'm pretty sure. I could check the contract and see. But the way it happened is, when you're an FCS program like ours, if you want to do something like put in a new video scoreboard, we've got to pay for it. And it doesn't, we don't have the media rights. We don't have the money from the school necessarily. So basically the way we do that here is with game guarantees. So we're actually playing Georgia the last game of the year, and we got East Carolina this year. So I'm thinking it was about 2 years ago. I was trying to buy a Daktronics, a 52-foot video board, 10 millimeter pixel, and all that fun stuff. You guys know about that. And I needed a game. So they said, well, we've got, you got this game scheduled and whatever. So there's a fellow by the name of Dave Brown who works with Gridiron, and he's kind of the master scheduler for college football. So we have a website, and I went on there, and there was a number of teams, FBS schools looking to buy a game for that particular date. And fortunately, East Carolina was one of them. I kind of had a little bit of do I really want to go back and this, but yeah, I do. So actually, believe it or not, the money that we'll make from this game will helped us buy a new big football video board for our football stadium. So I think it was about 2 years ago.
And a quick follow out of curiosity, what is the new scoreboard? We need one at East Carolina. What does a new scoreboard cost for those of us that are ignorant and we don't know?
Well, let's just put it this way, David. Depending on the size and depending on the pixels and how clear and all that, ours here cost about $675,000. Now, we took down an old scoreboard. I think it was put up in 1961, but just kidding about that. But it was an old scoreboard, the old bulb, and you couldn't even hardly read it on a sunny day. So we had to just totally scrap and put up new poles and do all that stuff. So ours was right at 675, and it's a 52-foot video board. It's completely video, so we can do a lot of different things with it. So depending on what the size is that they're at East Carolina, I'm not sure, but it's going to be a good price tag.
No doubt about it.
One of the things, Dave, and while we're talking about different facility upgrades and so forth, I know you and I had talked about this ad nauseum, but as far as the indoor practice facility, and obviously you're an AD at another institution, we're not talking about East Carolina's specific situation. Coach Houston and John Gilbert, they've really reiterated how much of a priority that is and will be coming in the very near future. But with your experience at Liberty, I know you resigned, I guess, in November of 2016, but in April of 2017, they opened a beautiful new, right at $30 million indoor practice facility. So just talk about that project and just your experience with those facilities in general.
Yeah, we were blessed at Liberty to have some online money to help with that. We also had to do fundraising as well. Not everybody understands there wasn't like just an open checkbook we could do things. But, as an AD, to be honest with you, probably 95% of the things that I do and I think about recruiting. There's never been a donkey to win the Kentucky Derby. You better have some studs and you got to have the right ones. And you know what? It's the kind of business that we've got to look over and see what other, teams would be doing in the AAC or the Big South in my case, or whatever it is, and you got to look at Chapel Hill and you got to look at Raleigh and see what other. So, from a recruiting standpoint and just keeping up. And so that people know that you care about what you're doing. There's an old saying, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so, you got to do those kinds of things. So at Liberty, you're right. It was about 29 point something $million. We went up and looked at UVA and looked at a bunch of other ones and, tried to make it more indigenous to what we needed there on that campus. But they're huge. I mean, right now, my baseball coach actually is good friends with Cliff Godwin. He coached at Ole Miss with Cliff Godwin. I hired this guy last year, and Cliff's a friend too. But anyway, Ole Miss connection there. But he just sent me a video or a picture, and we just had we're 20 miles from the beach here. So one of those thunderstorms that popped in out of nowhere and just flooded the field. And so footballs had to cancel or delay the thing. So, when you have those kinds of situations, be it water, be it snow and ice or cold or whatever, it certainly, you don't want to lose that practice time. So I'm really glad that John and Coach Houston are getting that done. And it's a big, important piece of kind of what we're doing.
And to let you know, there's been a lot of rain today and tomorrow in Greenville. So we desperately need Pirate Nation. We need to have like Vince McMahon or somebody to do a $25 million check. And let's go ahead and get this baby done. Maybe somebody very well, Pirate Al, a good friend of the show, Alan Powell. I know he has 25 million under his seat cushions there.
He would never miss it. He would never miss it.
No doubt. If he could, he would. I know. But seriously, let's move on to. I know that our softball coach is someone that you know very well. That East Carolina now, Shane Winkler, as he was there at Charleston Southern, he came to Greenville to East Carolina.
I do. Full disclosure, I only was with him about 3 months. I got here June the 1st, and he left in late August to go to George Washington. So, yeah, just a terrific coach. I think he's going to do a great job there. He's a great person. He loves the girls and he works hard. And he's a really hard-working guy, and he knows the game. So he knows what he's doing. We were a big power hitting team. He brought in a bunch of girls from California. I'm not saying he'll do that there, but he's a terrific guy, and I think he'll do a really good job. I was really happy to see them make that decision.
Jeff, as far as we know with obviously with everything we're talking about facilities, but we were talking about Liberty, and I know how I was thinking, I saw an article today about how their people, I'll tie this in, you'll see where I'm going with it, but Deion Sanders, they want him, apparently the talking heads, to go to USC, and there's some, wait a minute, no, you need somebody to build a program. And when I heard build a program, I thought about you and what you did at Liberty. Talk about from the time we know what you did at Liberty, talk about now you've been on the job a few years, a little over 3 years. I think it was May of 2018 when you took the job. I remember that at Charleston Southern. Talk about what you've done there at Charleston Southern from that point of being hired to now.
Mm-hmm. Good question, David. I could talk a long time. I'll try to keep it limited. I will say this. I mentioned this yesterday with Jeff Charles. I said, as an AD, I think it's probably the East Carolina blood in me. I've kind of got what I call a healthy chip on my shoulder, and it's pretty much there all the time because, growing up in Greenville or whatever, you're not ACC, whatever. I won't go any further, but so you're always kind of got that healthy chip on your shoulder to get better and to fight. So I'm a fighter, and I'm a guy that likes to see myself. And I didn't really know this until I went to Furman, because when I was at East Carolina with Dave Hart and Charlie Carr, I was just kind of learning the business and kind of doing what I was supposed to do, but I wasn't in a position that I knew how to make things better. So when I got to Furman, I really realized that I see myself as a builder and not a sustainer. So whether I was the Paladin Club director or the Gamecock Club or senior associate, whatever it was, or AD, I'm not a guy that likes to sit around and just let the moss grow under my feet. I'm always trying to get better and pushing. So it's a good question, Dave. For here at Charleston Southern, we're a very low resource institution. It's no secret. And so basically I've been here about 6 months, and I realized that we needed to start taking account of the little things that we're doing to get better. So God put our eyes in front of our head to see where we're going, not behind us to see where we've been, but he gave us a neck to turn around. And sometimes you got to turn around, and you guys with the show or whatever it is, you need to just turn around and take a moment to appreciate kind of what you've done to make it better. So we have a senior staff meeting every week. And so we started going around and just started talking about little things. And so it's kind of my mantra, if you will. I do it a lot on Twitter or whatever. I've actually got a wristband here that says little things on it. And so we're trying to get better here by doing little things. So I would tell you that if you're in my office over on the board, we have already accomplished, not that things that we want to do, they're things that we've already accomplished, 523 little things that we've done to get better. And it's all kinds of different things. It's a heat illness policy. It's a new software for our compliance office. It's the new video board for football. It's the new logo that we did. It's the new sidearms website that we did. And I had a meeting with all of our student athletes in the stadium on Sunday. And I said, probably out of 543, 80 to 85% touch every student athlete. So whether it's hardwood floors in the development office, or whether it's a new halo at baseball, or whether it's new carpet in the softball hitting tunnels, or whatever it is. But we've done from a facility standpoint and from a procedural standpoint and policies and all. We got new policies on how our coaches' contracts are all different. So I inherited a program that was just not where it needed to be in 2018. So we changed the Nike contract, we changed the coaches' contracts, we changed a lot of different things just to get better, because that's just kind of the way I'm wired. And so it really goes further than that. And part of that is with personnel. So, unfortunately, and I don't say this I say this with a sad heart, I've had to make a change on 5 head coaches in 3 years. And so, as an AD, you've got to evaluate if you got the right guy leading the ship. How about that? And so, we've been able to do some things. I told our senior officers and the board of trustees last week that for the first time since I've been here, every head coach and every senior staff member, I feel really good and confident about that we got the right people on the bus, if you will, people with Division I experience. And I tell folks all the time, to be good, you have to have 2 things. You got to be really good at what you do. You got to be knowledgeable and understand and all that. But the second thing I think that gets missed sometimes is you got to have the want to. You got to want to do a good job. Too many people in this business or any business, they just don't really care to do a good job. They're just there to get a paycheck, and 5 o'clock, you better not be standing by the door. You're going to get run over. So I feel really good that we made some personnel changes and brought people in, with some high level experience, whether it's Autry Denson, our football coach, who was the running back coach at Notre Dame, whether it's Dave McFatridge, our volleyball coach, who was the head coach at Mississippi State, whether it's Clarice Garcia, our new women's basketball coach, who was the top assistant at Auburn and Wake Forest. So, for a smaller school like us, we only have 3,500 students. We've got, I think, a really, really strong staff. We had our spring meetings down in Hilton Head, and several of the ADs, they said, "Man, how are you getting all these people coming to Charleston Southern?" And I said, "Man, the good Lord's looking out for us, and have to be an idiot because these people want to come here and be here, part of the program." So, to answer your question, David, we're doing a lot of little things, 548 little things that we've accomplished. Again, not that we want to do. And it's all different kinds of things from A to Z, but then also with some personnel. We're like the old in that spot where Lou Holtz used to say, we're not where we want to be, and we're not where we're going to be, but thank God we're not where we used to be. So we're making progress. It's not something that goes as quick as we would like to as an AD. I told somebody earlier today, I can get impatient. I don't even like to buy green bananas. So I'm really ready to be FCS national champion in football. I'm ready to have our basketball team, go to the dance, and our baseball team and softball and all of our teams go to the NCAA tournament. But it does take time, and we're just taking it day by day.
Jeff, one of those hires you mentioned, Autry Denson, really appreciative of your SID, Travis Woods, allowing him to come on the program a couple of times in the last month and a half. But, it's very clear to us on some of the things that are so appealing about Coach Denson, but just talk about going back to when he was hired and what made him stand out.
I'm going to tell you a really cool story. At least in my opinion, it's a really cool story. So what happened is the day after I had to make a change with the last coach. And the next day, Coach Lou Holtz, not Skip and I are great friends, but Lou Holtz, Coach Holtz, and I call him Coach Holtz. I call Skip. But anyway, Coach Holtz texted me and he said, "Hey, I've got a guy I'd like you to talk to, Autry Denson at Notre Dame, and would you be willing to talk to him?" And I wrote him back. I said, "Coach, I can show you the text message on my phone. Still got it." I said, "Coach, you know what? If you recommend him to me, then absolutely I'd talk to him." So they were about 2 weeks away from playing Clemson in the football playoffs. So they were in this, one of the 4 teams, obviously. So I called Autry the next day and I said, "Autry, let me just get the big elephant out of the room." I said, "You're 2 weeks from playing for the national championship. You're at Notre Dame, the all-time leading rusher. Why in the world would you want to come to a school, an FCS program, and we're not even a high resource when there are ones that got a lot more than we got?" I said, "Why in the world would you want to come here?" And you know what he said to me was interesting. He said, "You know what, my wife and I, we prayed about it. We just feel like this is where God wants us to go." And I said, "Well, that's good enough for me. Let's talk." So through the process of talking with him, he started reminding me a lot of Dabo Swinney. And I was able to go down and spend a couple of days with Coach Swinney and their staff back in 2016. And so I felt like I knew them pretty well. And so anyway, I called Terry Don Phillips. Terry Don Phillips was the AD at Clemson that moved Dabo from a receivers coach to the head coach. And here's Autry as a running back coach. I'm talking to him about a head coach. So kind of jumping the normal circuit, right? Going through an offensive or defensive coordinator. And so Terry Don's a good friend. And I called Terry and I just said, "Terry, let me talk to you about Dabo. When you hired Dabo Swinney, what did you see in him? And why did you think, because obviously he made a great call, why do you think he was the right guy at the time? What were you observing?" He said, "Jeff, there were several things." He said, "Number one, I'd go out to practice. And once or twice a week, I'd go out to practice." Now, this was at Clemson when I guess Coach Bowden was there. And he said, "I always watched Dabo, and he was very intentional with the players. He was concentrated on the little things, which we talked about a minute ago. And he wouldn't let them leave the field until they were ready to go and they had learned it." And he said, and also I'd go down to his coach's offices and I'd watch, and not only were the receivers around Coach Swinney, but also were all the linebackers and the linemen, the kickers, and everybody hung out. So I knew he was, had a great relationship with the team. He said, and also, I'd watch him with other people, and people just loved him, and he loved people, and he cared about him. He loves his family, loves God, all this stuff. And I was like, okay, sounds good. And again, that's what I was seeing, those same types of things in Autry. So I called Brian Kelly. You guys know Coach Kelly at Notre Dame, and I didn't tell him those exact questions. I didn't tell him, "Hey, does Autry do ABC?" But I said, "Why don't you tell me about Autry?" So he started telling me, and I already knew about loving people and this, that, and the other. But I said, "What was he intentional in coaching? Does he pay attention to details?" He said, "Oh, Jeff, you can't believe it." He said he said the same thing Terry Don said about Dabo, and he said, "I'll give you an example. We had a running back this year that was our number one runner at the end of the year, got drafted by Green Bay." And he said, Autry came to me before the first game, and he said, "I think we need to sit him for 4 games." And so we did. And he said, "Jeff, it wasn't for things that the player was doing on the field. It was things he was doing off the field." So I'm a big believer in that we got to care about our kids and coaches. And I talk about it to them in the hiring process. And we talk about it a lot about just treating these young men and women like, care about their grandma, care about their father who might be sick, or care, we need to care about these kids. and not just look at him as an athlete, student athlete. So he said, oh yeah, he had this guy, we sat him out. He was our best running back for 4 games for stuff he did off the field. And he said, and I will tell you, the players love him. And he volunteered this to me. He said, you go down, he said, all the players love to hang out in Autry's office. And again, I didn't ask that question. He just volunteered it. I've got a friend, a guy that I actually hired at Liberty as the women's soccer coach. And he's now the head women's soccer coach at Notre Dame. And I called him up. He was at Notre Dame. And I said, did you know Autry Denson very well? He says, no, I don't. You know, Notre Dame football is kind of off on their own little island over there. And he said, but I will tell you this. He said, my administrative assistant tells me that the only person she wants to talk to in the football building is Autry Denson because he treats her so well. And he's always does that. So again, when you start looking at the 2 people, and again, I told Autry when it all happened, I don't need to put the pressure on you, but he's just got a lot of those kind of characteristics. So attention to detail, disciplinarian. He was actually Coach Kelly's disciplinarian for the entire team. He handled all that for Notre Dame football. But he's just a great people person, and he's really smart guy. So you know what? He just had another couple guys that I've talked to that were really good, but Autry was just a step above, and I really felt like he was ready to take on the role of a head coach. And he's been here now 2.5 years, and he's doing a great job.
So under current, Coastal Carolina coach Jamie Chadwell on the potential that Charleston Southern program has. So just talk about the way things are currently going for the Bucks. You picked up a big season opening win against crosstown rival there in the Citadel, and then you competed with Monmouth for a decent chunk of that game before Monmouth pulled away in the second half.
Yeah, thanks for that, Bubba. We went over and played Citadel and played them really well. My opinion, it wasn't as good as it was better than what the score indicated. And that's our rival game. You know, it used to be Coastal. They were in the league, but when they moved to the Sun Belt, obviously, we don't have a conference game anymore in the state of South Carolina. So Citadel is 15 miles away, and, it's just a big game for our alumni in there. So it was a really good win, and we really played well. And, it was a great win. Monmouth's a really good football team. So far there've been 10 FCS programs that beat FBS programs this year, and 4 of the wins have been against Power 5. So there are good teams at this level, and Monmouth is one of them. I will tell you that. They are one of them. Big offensive linemen. They've got several of them. We're back for their 6th year because of COVID. They've been in the playoffs 2 years in a row. And again, playoff football is pretty good. Those teams could win a number of FBS games. And so anyway, I don't think we played really well. And Monmouth had something to do with that. I give them credit. I love their coach, Kevin, known him. He's been up there for 27 years. He's a terrific football coach, and he's really got it rolling. But they came in here, and they, we had some really difficult injuries, and we've lost some key players, starters out of that game. They're just a big physical football program. They just kind of going to instill their will against you, and they just pound you all night long, and they've got a really high quality quarterback. So it was a tough loss for us. Home game, we were hoping for better, but we're going to keep fighting, and hopefully we'll come up to Greenville and give you guys a really good game. I think we will.
Taking a look at future schedules, you talk about playing FBS opponents, and you discuss obviously the reasons you do that earlier. But who are some of the FBS opponents, if any, that are on future schedules for the Bucks?
Well, we actually have games. I've got games all the way up through 2029. So we're going to Georgia, the last game of this year. Next year, I believe, is NC State. We've got Clemson coming up. We've got Arkansas in 25 or 26. We've got Coastal Carolina. We got to sometimes kind of hate to do it, but coach is okay with it. We have to play 2 like we're doing this year for financial reasons. So we needed to play. We just put in a very new turf, a new AstroTurf field. It's beautiful. It's really a high level. It's the one you'd find in any FBS or Power 5 stadium. It's that kind of quality. But I had to get another game one year. So we got Arkansas and Coastal together in 25, I think it is. We're going to Vanderbilt, I think 26, 27. We've got South Carolina, talks with South Carolina. Got a game with Florida coming up. And so, we've just got to do that to kind of keep floating, if that makes sense.
Jeff, I had a question along those lines as far as scheduling games when it comes to. I hear Coach Saban, and I have a lot of respect for him. I mean, you gotta, right, with all the. But I hear a lot of coaches talking about, we got to play the best. We got to play the best schools, being FBS. But for you guys with FCS, it's a big deal to play these games. And I hate the term money games and all that stuff, but if they cut out those games, that would really hurt you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it really would, David. I think at our level, and of course we had this at Liberty when I was there as well. I think, the two things that it does is obviously the money is the big thing. Again, we wouldn't have that new field or the video board if we didn't play FBS games. So it really would damage a lot of FCS programs. And to be honest with you, a lot of schools will get that check and they've got to turn it right over to the school. And so they don't even see the money. So that's a really tough situation as well. It's also, you hear coaches talk about it being a good recruiting tool. The guys get up for the game and play it. So, it's an opportunity for us guys that, kind of the wannabes, if hope that's okay to say, for some financial reasons to do some things that we couldn't do without it. So, yeah, they're important to us, and I hope they don't go away. And we'll see what happens with the NCAA coming up. But yeah, they're big for us, and it's good for our fans. Obviously, it's good PR for the school and all that. And hopefully, we can go and get people good games, and it's not some kind of blowout. But yeah, the money part's the main piece.
Jeff, as we were beginning to wrap this up, obviously you mentioned crossing paths with Lou Holtz and that Holtz family. So, whether it's a story with them at South Carolina or, maybe something that took place at Liberty or something that occurred during your years at East Carolina, talk about some of your favorite memories in Division I athletics.
Whew, Bubba, that is a big question. I would just say, Jeff asked me the question yesterday about being at Liberty and what did you enjoy most or whatever. I've got a lot of stories. Some of them are really good ones, and some of them are like they're funny now. So I'll tell you this real quick. So when I interviewed Autry, I flew he and his wife into Charleston. We went downtown for seafood dinner. And we were talking about Coach Holtz, who's a great guy. Coach Holtz and I actually texting earlier today because he had back surgery back in May and just was asking how he was doing. So I look over to Autry and I said, so you were recruited by Coach Holtz? Because he was actually going to go to Florida State. And then you played for him for 2 years. He said, yeah. I said, well, I worked with him for 6 and I probably played 100 rounds of golf with him. So I would say we both have a lot of stories. I said, I've got a really funny Lou Holtz story to tell you right now. And Autry looked back at me and he gave me one of the 2 best lines I think I've ever heard. He looked back at me and he said, it's funny now. I said, good point. It's funny now. It wasn't when it happened. And ironically, the other great line that I remember over my years, and I'll get back to your question here in a minute, Bubba, was Steve Logan. And I was talking to Coach Logan, and he was telling me, I think it was about a recruit's mom that came to him and said, Coach Logan, how many of your players graduate? And he answered her with one of the best answers you could ever think of. He said, everyone that wants to. So I actually use that line with recruits now, if your son or daughter wants to, whatever. So I would say that probably the thing when I look back, it's always about people. People are first, and I'm a big people person, and I love people, but love relationships with people and all that. But I think as I look back and I look at my days at Liberty, inherited a program that wasn't too different than this one here at Charleston Southern. When I got there, the online money started kicking in and things started. So the money started rolling and we were able to do a lot of nice things. And again, we had to raise money too, but we had that as well. So probably as I look back in my career, and it's been 33 years now, I've been in college athletics. I would tell you probably the thing that I'm most happy about, the thing that means the most is that we were able to build a program at Liberty from where it was when I got there, $12 million budget to 55 employees to 175, a Flames club that was raising $50,000 to over $1 million. You start putting those things together and that's all fine and dandy. But I think the thing that I take the most pride in, if that's okay to say, is that we did that without stepping on people. We did it the right way. We did it by treating people well. You got to make some tough decisions in this world, in this job. But we were able to grow a program, and we didn't cheat. We didn't lie. We didn't steal. We didn't, bend the rules. We didn't, we weren't hurting people. Now, again, sometimes you have to make changes, and I understand that hurts people, and it hurts me as well. I never sleep well before those kind of conversations, or the night after. But at the same time, I just felt like we built a program to a place that was really, really special. And I don't know if you ever have a chance to get up there, but, senior associate Tennessee comes to me and came to we were playing Tennessee in soccer. And he said, "Can I tour your facilities?" And we went around, and he said, "There's not one school in the SEC that has as fine a facilities as Liberty from top to bottom." So yes, bigger, someday nicer here or there, but top to bottom, there's not a school in the SEC that has the quality that you do. So just part of the conversation, part of its facilities, and it's a lot of other things. We won 83 championships in my 10 years there, 83 conference championships. In 2013, we're the only school to win this conference championship in football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball, the only school in the country that did that. So those are all great things. But I think what I would say probably sits at the top of the heap for me is just that we were able to make those kind of gains, if you will. We were able to have those kind of accomplishments, and we did it the right way. We followed the mission of the school. We followed the rules. We did it well. And to the degree that you can, we treated people well in the process. I've still got wonderful relationships with those coaches, even coaches that I had to let go. We still text. I've got a basketball coach at Texas A&M right now, and we're talking all the time. So again, it's a great question. But after 33 years, when I look back, seeing the program grow like it did at Liberty, and just know that it was done the right way. It was done by treating people well. And, we laid the foundation. They're going to have a lot of good years up there, and I feel very blessed to be a part of it.
Jeff, thank you so much. I know you're generous with your time and you're very busy. We appreciate you coming on. It means a lot. Good luck this week to the Buccaneers and the rest of the season, and look forward to meeting you sometime soon in Greenville or down in Charleston for sure.
Well, David, I'll be up around hope you'll come up and we can talk face to face. And if you ever come down this way, I'll take you out to go get a good seafood dinner. How about that? You too, Bubba.
All right. Sounds good. Appreciate you.